Hi, I'm Cindy Wallace with the Amarillo Public Library. We have a really fun craft for you today. In fact, it's so fun, it comes in two parts. We're going to do an easier part that's the gingerbread meme. We're going to do some gift tags with simple quilling, and then we're going to work our way up to part two, which is the winter ornament quilling. I'm so happy to present this to you today. This is great fun. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. The supplies are pretty simple. Most of them you have around the house. Today for quilling, continuation of quilling, we're going to need possibly some corkboard or some soft cardboard that you might could pin things into, some cardstock or some colored typewriter paper. I would mention that we're going to be rolling things since we're quilling, and if you don't have fancy quilling tools or don't have a quilling kit yet, then you might be rolling your paper around. A pencil or a barbecue skewer. Any little tool that you have around the house works equally well. You just have to go slow when you're rolling. But for supplies for today, cardstock, wax paper I know you've got around the house, the distress inks like you see on the gingerbread person here. We can do that with distress ink rubbed on the edges, or we can use colored pencils or crayons. I'm pretty sure I can help you find everything around the house that you're going to need for the project. We are going to do a little bit of crimping, which is in the quilling kits. The crimping tool you might not have unless you have a quilling kit, but we would just use straight pieces of paper rather than accordion fold paper. That wouldn't keep me from having a good time working on this project today. You'll definitely want some sharp, small scissors, some tweezers, and a little tiny bottle of glue. Let's get started. The first part of this design is pretty easy. You might want to go online and get you a gingerbread boy and girl, or you might want to look in your family cookie cutter collection, because I just need you to trace, cut out with scissors, and get you some gingerbread people so that we can begin decorating them with quilling. Okay, let's get started. So the first thing you have to do is get your gingerbread people, boy and girl, whatever you'd like. You can get them online. You can trace them. You can even use a cookie cutter. As you can see right here, mine are about 3.5 inches tall for the boy and the girl, and that's about what you're going to want for the quilling we're going to do today. Once you get your gingerbread people cut out, it's time to distress or decorate the edge just a little bit to give it some extra character. You can do that with distressing ink, which we'll learn how to use, or you could use crayons or colored pencils. The next step is really fun. We're going to distress our gingerbread people, and I'm going to give you two choices depending on what you have access to. So as you can see, I have a couple of inks here. I have a sort of a orangish light brown and a darker brown. I'm going to do one of them this way. This is how you distress, and you literally just go along the edges. Won't take but a moment. You can try it different ways. If you're new to this, I would tell you to practice on a piece before you get to your gingerbread people. I have plenty that I end up throwing away, but I distress them as I go, and I also like to do more than one tone if I have a chance. So I'm going to give you a couple of really good options. You see me handling this carefully because this takes a moment for this to dry depending on how thick you apply this. But I want you to get the idea that my gingerbread people have been properly cooked. Oh, believe me, I have some that were raw, they were too white. Some that were undercooked, they were creamy colored. And so I had to go get this paper that I was happy with. Now, let me show you how I add dimension. I'm going for a lighter color. I've got that dark color on. These are going to kind of be my highlights, and I don't do quite as much. I also have used gold. After I've done these two shades, I'm really fond of really dressing them up and putting some gold on them. So for right now, for you to get the idea, we are just distressing the edges, and you can see I'm just wiping from the edge to the center. Believe me, I've tried both ways. You should too. I just like the marks that I get going from the edge towards the center. So that's my little distressed gingerbread person. You will need like a little rag for several different steps that we're doing on different things today where you might need to wipe your hands off. Now I've got a paper plate covered in wax paper. I use it for all kinds of ways, applying glue, distressing, and that's got to sit there and dry for a minute. So I'm going to push that off to the side so I can show you the next thing that I would do. I also would want a covered surface for this one. Now this one I'm going to start with a little bit lighter color, and look, you could use colored pencil or crayon, and I'm working again from the outside edge towards the inside. You can't go wrong, you're not going to mess it up. And I'm just giving it some detail before I do the actual quilling that we came here to do today. These are really good for attaching to either hanging on the tree at holiday time, putting on a gift anytime, especially if they like gingerbread. And this will get a little darker as I go, but I have to show you how I start out. I'm going to turn him around as I work. And I'm literally going around the whole thing. You get the idea. Then I come back in with a darker brown and I go all the way around. With my next darker color, I do less work with the darker color than I did with my main color. Is going to be that little brighter brown. Come back up here where we had plenty. I want you to see I do detail work, and I'm just striking it in with the pencil, layering the color like I teach in my classes when I'm doing color theory. And then for a little extra detail, if you want to bring in a midnight blue or a black, these are terrific colors to throw in the tiniest little bit of detail. Now you've got two ways to get a similar look. This is such a fun little tool. For those of you that have access to a quilling kit, the crimping tool, whether it's a 3Z like this or a 1Z like I have at home, it's great fun to run a piece of quilling paper through the crimping tool, making these little tiny accordion pleats. If you don't have this, don't worry. We'll just use straight pieces of paper and it'll look just as good. So this step is one of the really fun ones for the gingerbread people. I need to let you know that when you're crimping, I think it works better if you use the cardstock or quillography paper. And I wanted you to see the difference. It'll be subtle on camera. This is a really long strip. This is one I ordered, and it is heavier than typewriter paper. It works great. It will crimp just fine, but it doesn't hold the crimp as well. This is just regular quilling paper, but it's heavier than typewriter paper. However, I used white cardstock that we had right here at the library, and it is noticeably thicker and heavier. What I've learned by doing it is that it holds the crimp much better, and the one I'm going to show you today has several sizes. I really like this. Mine at home just has one. You can see by looking here that we have a really large, a medium, and a small, and I have used all of them at one point or another in decorating my gingerbread people. So we're going to try at least one of the middle one and the small one so that you can see how it goes. Is just get it started. I'm kind of going to crank, and you'll be able to see it running through, becoming crimped. I've tried to think of how you could do this at home if you didn't have a crimping tool. The unfortunate answer is, while most of the time I have really good suggestions for homemade versions of something, in this case I actually think you might kind of need the crimping tool. So that was the medium. I'll show you in a second the difference. This is going to be the small one. This is the heavier cardstock, which is what quillography paper is, and I've tried it so I'd be able to tell you firsthand. I really think the cardstock holds better. So I'll move that out of the way. I want you to be able to see there's the little small crimp and the medium crimp. And I think this is one that's the big crimp right here from when I did the big crimp as part of, oh no, it's not. Here's the big crimp. Sorry. There's the great big crimp. It just looks like a giant wave. But I will tell you that the cardstock holds the crimp best. Now let's put this crimped paper, which is just tiny little folds in paper, to work on our gingerbread people. I think you'll enjoy this. Not too hard. These are more finished people here and here. All the pieces are glued down, and I thought we'd play for just a second. See how these are the colored pencil versions, and these are the ink versions. There's some that has a little bit of gold in it. Now we're going to take the paper. I've already glued down some things. See, the eyeballs are glued in. Those are just, folks, just curls of paper. Not hard at all for you to do. But now I'm going to take little pieces of our crimped paper. I'll lay a piece right here so you can see. I cut it to fit. So right here, in this case, see how she had a round neckline on her dress? I decided I'd be a little different and make a V-neck on this one. Then you have a couple of things that you need to do. You need your wax paper on your plate so that you can squirt some glue, or at least a piece of wax paper, because I'm going to show you a real cute little trick that'll come in super handy. So if you do a bead like this, just a small bead of glue, and get your tweezers that are part of your supplies, you will be able to take your crimped piece of paper and just sort of dip it lightly in the edge of the glue. And that's, I know that doesn't look like much glue. I swear that's all it takes. All you have to do is stand it up on there, line it up, press it very gently, pin it if you need to. If you need to, do this. Put little tiny pins in so that it doesn't go anywhere, but you can see I've got a smile, little eyes, I've got a skirt here. On this finished one I did a little bow in her hair, so if you didn't see the skirt, you'd know that the bow probably represented the gingerbread girl. Then we have the gingerbread boy over here. Again, let's do this one more time. It's a little piece I have cut to make his neckline. He too is different than the top one. He's going to have a V-neck in his little shirt, and I wanted you to see how very well just dipping or dragging it so lightly through a tiny little area of glue is the exact right way to go. The ones that are finished were done exactly that way, and they are stuck. They're not going anywhere. Yes, they would crush if you smashed them. Let's hope we don't after the work that we put in them. Now I'm going to take these off and show you that I planned where his little buttons were going to go on his shirt. I just rolled them up, but I can take the tweezers and the button, and again I can either just dip it in, or I can actually put glue on the back of it. It dries clear, it's water wash up. I like it so much. So this is one of your options. Drag and dip, and don't put too much glue out on your paper plate at one time. It will dry out and you'll have to do another line. Or you can take your little bottle of glue, do it by hand, drop it in place. You have a moment to move it around, make sure you're happy with it, and there you go. That's the basic idea on your gingerbread people. So sweet, so nice. You can distress with colored pencils or ink. You can crimp paper, and if you don't have a crimper, guess what? I think I'd still be just about as happy using cardstock and cutting a small piece. Even if it's not crimped, that wouldn't keep me from icing, decorating, say, my gingerbread person. I could take this and basically roll it around my finger and create just as good looking a collar. I'll put it underneath this one. It's not crimped, but I can stand it on edge. I can glue it in, say, for the waist. Let's say she's got a skirt on today. Look right there. I can take it and glue it in, and it's not crimped, but she still has a perfectly iced waist on her gingerbread girl skirt. So we have our finished, wonderful looking gingerbread people ready to go on gifts for the season. Now it's time to start a continuation of the gift tag idea. This time we're going to move into still distressed, punching little holes in the top. Let's learn how to make mittens and Santa hats. So while we're working on tags, I thought you might like a little something to go with your gingerbread people. Now, these are just samples, and I've done them with rounded tops, just plain old little rectangle squares, punch some with the holes out on the corners. These are easy to find as clip art online, or you can just draw your own. I very much enjoy drawing my own. Again, these are similar in height to the gingerbread people in that these are about 3.5 inches tall. That seems to fit the quilling design and leave room for you to make a to and a from, a gift from Santa, whatever you want to use your card for. I just put that in. These are my children. I put that in so you could see the spaces there for writing on. So the first thing you're going to do is pick out your design for this type of gift card, cut it out, distress it like we did the gingerbread people, then plain old hole punch. Nearly every family has a plain old-fashioned hole punch. Punch a hole in the end, tie, maybe I've got 4 inches of ribbon right there through, and you can hang it or tape it, attach it to a present. Now the part that I'm assuming we've got that kind of down. We can produce the background for the card. Now let's get to the creative part with the little mittens and the Santa hat. Both pretty easy to do, and I really just want to demonstrate the pieces that are in here. So let's get to the quilling part. This is decorating the card that you have distressed, produced. Let's just do a little coil, save that. You'll attach that as a pom-pom for his little hat. All of these instructions will be printed up. They'll be below after we do the little lesson. This is just a giant circle. I'm fixing to show you one. This is kind of neat right here. See how there's red on the outside? Well, I didn't do that red after. I did it while I was working. I'm going to produce white with red on the outside and turn a small circle into a square to show you. That technique is used here and it's used here. It's not a square, it's more of a rectangle, but you can see the pieces now that you're starting to look. This is a circle. I have sort of flattened it on one end. I'll show you how I did that. This is just a little tiny teardrop shape for the thumb, and this is another one of the white with a red outside, and then I take my fingers and I smash it in gently, not smash, I gently put it into the shape that I want before I glue it down. So push those just a little bit to the side so I can show you what I mean. Right here, I've got a white strip glued to a little 2-inch red strip. That's what I'm going to need to produce this and this. Now you can do it by hand, and I did want to show you.
You zoom out.
Because I'm fixing to do something I want zoomed in. I want them to see what the difference is in quilling tools.
Okay, so put your hands where you want them, and I'll... Okay, and now you can pick it up right where you left off.
So one thing I wanted to take the opportunity to point out to you is the difference. When you get a little quilling set to roll your paper on, there's some differences in the width of the cut. See how wide that is right there? I use that one a lot when I'm doing long, thicker papers, because sometimes I put 2 papers together and wind the whole thing up. Well, that's when I would use that one. Then there are others that the little slit in the metal isn't near as big as this one is, but I wanted you to realize that there's differences in the quilling tools. Okay, I'm going to set those aside, get a sort of generic one, and I'm going to get my red and white that are glued together. See how the white's in the middle? That's where you start rolling, and you can hand roll, or you can use an electric one. This is what most of you will have, so I'm going to hand roll. I also have an electric roller. I'll show it to you. That's the electric roller. I love it. I use it almost every single day, but this is not, I'm not telling you that I never ever roll by hand, because I absolutely roll a ton by hand. This works just fine. I'm going to take my little roll off. Now he's a roll right now. Let me put him in a circle and I'll put him back in camera. Okay, I have just popped him. This is what I rolled. White first, red on the outside. Yes, he's a circle. I tell my students he's getting happy when he sits there and the paper sort of stretches out to the circle, and I like it very much. Then I'm going to take some tweezers. Set that aside for a second. I am going to glue the end. And I wanted to point out it is the tiniest amount of glue. It is not big globs of glue. Well, more than that, which was nothing. So let me grab the glue stick right quick. It's just the tiniest bit of glue. I would tell you too that on the darker colors like dark red, navy blue, black, you don't want a gluey mess. It will show. Even though it dries kind of clear, you'll still be able to see it when you're done. So I usually count to about 10 while holding my glued end down. So while I'm talking, I'm holding my little tiny glue piece down. This is so I can show you. I turn this circle, white in the middle, red on the outside, into these real sweet little components of the mittens and the Santa hat. So this is technique. Now I hope he's glued down enough. Now I'm just going to pinch him and press with my fingers. One side, press with my finger the other side. And while I've got him halfway formed, I rotate and I press again. I'm literally pressing with my fingernail while I make a little tiny square. I do not use the board. I press with my fingers and I actually pinch. When I kind of get it going, then I truly do pinch the corners with my fingers and a tiny bit with my fingernail. Let me roll it around in my hand a second and I'll lay it down so you can see what I've been doing. That's 3 corners actually pinched. Now for my fourth one, I use 2 fingernails. I sort of pinch him. I'll lay him down here on the black so you can see. Then I have to work him a little bit. Sometimes I pull an edge out till I can get a square or a rectangle that I can push into shape and glue in the Santa hat. That's all there is to that. Now let's make one quick circle so I can show you how to turn a circle into a Santa hat. This time I'm going to use my electric tool just to make you want one, I guess, because I know when I first played with it I loved it. That's all there is to it. I'm just pressing. It's got 2 little AAA batteries. Again, I've got it in my fingers, but I need to let it get happy a minute. I'm going to put him in a bigger circle this time. See how the paper spreads out right there? That's what I need for it to do, to be able to pinch it into a round shape or a little Santa hat. Both of those pieces are solid red. So I just took, that was about 6 to 8 inches of red. Again, a little tiny bit of glue just to hold it together, and it truly doesn't take much. And then I can pinch it into any shape that I want. I'm letting him spring out just a bit so that you'll be able to see the shape that I make. So now I'm going to hold it again, count to about 10. I just want the glue to sort of set up so that I can pinch it into a triangle. Now I have something to show you. See the eye right there on the mittens? I really do pay attention to where the center of my little beginning is, because I'm, when I pinch it, I'm in control, at least mostly, right? So I'm going to pinch, but I'm watching here, and I want to get a little hat going. Well, I've got enough where I can actually pinch him at the top, make use of some negative space, then flatten him out a little bit on the bottom, and make a little tiny Santa hat. Hang on a second, I want to get my glue, my real glue, where I can glue him better. I wanted you to see the little tiny drops that I actually use. It dries clear, so I'm not too worried. There we go. Now, I'll put it up here so you can see that I have a little Santa hat going. curve it around just a little bit. If you curve it around just a little bit, you'll be able to have a little wave on your Santa hat, and all you have to do is attach a ball, make 3 or 4 little squares, and you've already got a Santa hat and a pair of mittens. I hope you had as much fun as I did today. I loved these projects. Now you've got finished gingerbread boy and girl and gift tags to put on those gifts for the holiday season. If you'd like, you can go on over to the little bit more complicated winter lights where we introduce beehive quilling. I think you'll like all of them. And by the way, if you liked it, do the thumbs up for us. Hit subscribe, hit that bell, and we'll let you know when we've got new videos coming out. Thank you so much, guys. Happy holidays.